Hello, everybody. We are here with Coach Ron Perrin. And Ron, tell us a bit about how you got into coaching, and let's lead into the '82 championship here.
Okay, well, Don, of course, I love football. Played football in high school and played for Coach Billy Joe Evans. Thought the world of him. And when I graduated and from high school and going into college, I thought, man, I'd love to coach. I mean, that'd be a great job. You actually get paid to do something that you love. So, make a long story short, I coached 6 years before I went to Lincoln County. My first job was in Macon County, and then I went to Moore County, coached with Red Roberts, and then at the junior high with Coach Max Raby. So I learned quite a bit. And then Coach Billy Joe Evans hired me at Lincoln County to help Coach Meadows, and there was Coach Raby and Alvin Palmer and of course Steve Edgins. And Steve and Coach Meadows have passed, unfortunately, but a bunch of great guys, and I learned a tremendous amount of football, especially from Coach Meadows. As I said, I coached for 6 years and thought I knew a little bit about football till I sat down with him and he got that chalk in his hand, went to the chalkboard, and heck, I was lost for a while. I even nudged Coach Palmer. I said, "You know what this man's talking about?" But anyway, I did catch on, and he was a very, very smart man and really knew football. But
Let's talk about the years before that. Did you realize how good the team was going to be in '82?
Yes, like I said, I did coach with Coach Raby at the junior high, and a lot of these athletes uh, came through the junior high, and I got to coach them. Tim Johnson, Lex Rambo, and I could name several others. And then, of course, there was the kids that went from the county on to Lincoln County. So I got to know a lot of the players anyway. We were very successful, even at that small level, at the junior high. So look forward to coaching with them. And they were juniors when I went on to Lincoln County. We went to a bowl game that year, and then, of course, the next year we ended up in the Clinic Bowl.
Let's talk about, you mentioned Coach Meadows when you first met him, and some of his coaching styles.
Very different than a lot of coaches I was associated with. He was a man that watched film tremendously. He learned so much, and not only just to see what the opponent does, but John had a knack of, I don't mean this in a ugly way, but he would try to find maybe the weaker players, like defensive line and so forth, on the opposing team that we're fixing to play, and he went at them. You know, if the people that watch Coach Meadows, one reason he ran the play over and over and over was because of that. You know, he would just kind of pick on the weaker athletes on the visiting team, and just kept running. Of course, those days we ran the wishbone. He was a big fan of Coach Bear Bryant. Knew Coach Bryant. We went to one of the clinics that Alabama had, and Coach Bryant met us all, invited us to his office, and unfortunately we didn't get a picture with him. I don't know. That was before cell phone days, but he knew Coach Meadows, and Coach Meadows picked up the wishbone from Coach Bryant, and that's the how that story came about in the offense.
Let's talk about the season, the '82 season. It wasn't a complete. Didn't win all the games, right?
No, we lost one game to Riverdale, 7-0, and it didn't affect us in those days. You just had to win the district to go to the playoffs, and they were not in our district at the time. They were in the neighboring district, but we went undefeated in the district. Our record was 91, and that's how we got into the playoffs in '82.
What specifically do you remember about the championship game?
Getting there was unbelievable. Coach Edgins and I spent a lot of time at night after school or after practice watching film, and we were very fortunate. Honestly, when we started that season, we had no clue that we would possibly even get that far. Playoffs, yes, but actually make it all the way to the Clinic Bowl, was tough. But once we got there, and of course we played Gallatin, and they were undefeated, and they had Division I players, and it was kind of like some people say, you know, David and Goliath type of matchup. And but we had a group of kids with the biggest heart, Don. I was very fortunate to coach the '90 team that won the state, and some other '84 when we wouldn't scored on, if you remember, for 8 or 9 ball games. A lot of talent, but this group of kids, and I brought this with me. This team shot. There were just a bunch of great kids with big hearts. Tim Johnson was our only Division I player. He went on to Vanderbilt, and Trentham played a little college ball, but other than that, it was just a bunch of great guys with big hearts, and that's the reason we came home with the trophy. And of course, this picture that here was the picture of Tim Johnson running the touchdown in overtime. You know.
Can you talk about that play, because that play is one we don't have video proof of?
Right, I understand that. Of course, when it was in overtime and the film ran out or whatever, right. You know, it was 6-6 after regulation. They came out. We held them. We had a great defense. So they ended up kicking the field goal. And then it was 10-7. And I knew what Coach Menez was going to call. He looked at me and I said, "You're going to run sweep right?" And he said, "Yes." And of course, that was our first and only play in overtime when Tim was our tailback at the time. But great blocking. Tim was a great player, but we had a bunch of kids that were played just as hard as he was. We were extremely happy with that.
Let's talk about the aftermath of that. As me and you know, you come from Fayetteville Junior High, I come from Flintville. There was a bonding time, but I believe this may have helped us bond, this school.
Yes, and in fact, when Lincoln County opened, if you remember, Coach Ezel carried the team to the state tournament, and that did a tremendous amount of getting the whole community together. But this year in football, because we had a bunch of kids from Flintville that started, and Danny Quarter, and I could keep naming a bunch, but anyway, it really kind of gelled this whole community together. And when you carry, I think there was a little over 26,000 people at this ball game. That's unheard of for a Dead Blam High School game. And I would say at least half was Lincoln County people that went. I remember seeing a sign going out of town, and we did take a charter bus then, that the last one out of town turned off the lights. And that was probably a true story, because I don't think there was too many people left in Fayetteville. They were all at this football game. And the other ones, we played Lebanon, a very close ball game. We went up to Crossville on a very wet, rainy Friday night and won there. And then we had Jefferson County, and they were huge. They were really, really big. And of course, they were undefeated, and they came down, and we had a great game against them and beat them. And then when we started watching film on Gallatin, I remember Coach Edgings and I talking about, this could be it. And Steve always would say, "I think we've created King Kong," because a lot of people, especially after this season, was kind of expecting it. You know, the next year, well, how good are we going to be this year? We're going to go to the state. Are we going to do this? We're going to do that. And I mean, we were still kind of in shock. Because we had a lot of seniors on this team. We did have a lot of seniors that graduated, and but we had some good young people coming up. Because I remember in '84, I don't think we were even scored on to the 8th ball game, and that was one team that I think we should have gone to the state, but we didn't. That's when Don Thomas and some of those Tony Parks and I could name a bunch on that team that were very, very good players, very good. But this little bunch here, as I say, had the biggest hearts of any kids I think I've coached, because I had a great time in 1990 with Kelly Holcomb and that bunch when we won the state. But this bunch, especially the 1982 team, were just a bunch of good kids. They just really went into this ball game. They didn't care who we played. I think we were more nervous than they were, because we knew what Gallatin had. And I think part of that ball game too. Nothing against Gallatin. I think they kind of overlooked us too. They didn't think that they would have any problem playing Lincoln County and winning the ball game, but they were wrong because this bunch was really ready to play.
Anything else you want to say?
No, that's fine.